Meanwhile, after President Trump threatened an additional 10% tariff on BRICS countries, China and Russia responded by saying they are not seeking a, quote, confrontation. China expert Michael Pillsbury joins me now. So, Michael, first of all, I'm thinking that BRICS is pretty much of a paper tiger compared to what the so-called experts, were expecting them to be 10 years ago, no?
I think that's right, David. BRICS was initially portrayed as a grave threat that was going to issue its own currency, control investment, control trade, but they've had a hard time making any agreements among themselves. So I agree with you. To use an old Chinese phrase, BRICS is kind of a paper tiger.
Yeah, exactly. Well, China's lost a lot of their heft as a world trader. And in India in particular, seems like it's kind of breaking away from BRICS, negotiating directly with us on its own.
That's right. It's a very good thing that India got into BRICS. They also got into another coalition called the Quad. Both of these moves by India are designed to help contain China, slow down China's growth, and make sure China does not have its dream come true of being the world's greatest economy and the world's greatest political leader. I think India is really very much on our side on this.
And by the way, President Xi was a no-show at the BRICS meeting in Brazil. Do you give any credence to speculation that shows there's something wrong with his leadership potential in China?
Well, David, as you know, China experts in America live off these rumors and play up, maybe Xi is under arrest, maybe something terrible has happened. Yeah. Then when they prove to be wrong, they usually are not accountable and we just move on to the next rumor. So I wouldn't put too much stock into this. The other indicators we have is that President Xi is in charge and doing fine. And actually, one comment a Chinese made to me, Chinese official, they're looking forward to President Trump's 6th summit meeting with Xi Jinping. They expect to get a lot accomplished that. I think the White House has the same idea. They want this meeting with, it's not the date and place are not set yet, but they want this summit meeting number 6 to really be successful.
All right. Well, speaking of summits, Beijing's hinting that a summit with President Trump must include concessions on Taiwan, including a formal statement that the U.S. are already laughing about that the U.S. does not support Taiwan's independence. Any way in the world that would happen, Michael?
Well, President Trump's already been pretty clear in his posting after his phone call with Xi Jinping. He said, we are going to abide by the one China policy. The Chinese held up the first summit with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago back in 2017. They held it up because we didn't say the right thing on China. But President Trump has already said the right thing on China. This story is coming from a Professor Wu in Shanghai, who's close to the Chinese government and party. It's a threat to try to get something that would be progress on Taiwan so that Xi Jinping can show off to the hardliners and hawks. You see, I got something out of President Trump. I don't think he's going to get it.
All right. One more, Michael. A battle from the Kachin you don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Kachin Independence Army in Myanmar. This is formerly Burma. It's putting the global heavy rare earth supply at risk. Most of us have never heard about Kachin and its dominance in these critical elements. It's extraordinary that so many of these heavy rare earths come from there. What's happening there exactly, and how could that affect world trade?
Well, it's a very important story. The Chinese have developed this secret weapon that we didn't know about. And it's the idea that they say, it's very deceptive. They say, well, rare earths, yes, we have the global monopoly, but now we have an export license process. So American companies cannot have rare earth, whether from Burma or anywhere else, unless they give us information about their technology. And even then, we may hold up the licensing process. So President Trump's working on this. He had the London talks, the Geneva talks. I don't think this is solved yet, but this is a secret weapon that came out of nowhere. Nobody knew that the Chinese would fabricate this licensing system that now seems to be delaying for 6 months to a year the provision of these very important magnets that go into auto manufacturing, jet engines. It's really very brilliant of the Chinese to come up with this new source of leverage on the Trump administration, and then claim that they got the idea of the licensing process from us, of all people. That's not true. But this new leverage they've got, we have to pay very close attention to.
Interesting. But it does sound like the Trump administration is on to what's going on.
Yes, my impression is President Trump spends a lot of time on China. It's not just one of the 193 countries of the UN. It's possibly what he spends the most time on. And he's very experienced. 5 summits with Xi Jinping is very impressive. Most people have not even met Xi Jinping, let alone have this kind of relationship with him. So this summit meeting, number 6, is going to be supremely important, David.
Michael Pillsbury, who knows all about China. Great stuff, Michael. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.